Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a very early look at some of the contenders in the Breeders' Cup Sprint Division. And speaking of the Breeders' Cup, before we get into some of the contenders for this race, you do want to check out the Breeders' Cup packages that we now have on offer at DRF.com. I think we've got two different packages. You can check out the Players package and the VIP package. The latter one of those is the one that includes those clock reports that Mike Welsh and his team out in California will put together. So make sure you check that out because those clock reports can be an invaluable resource for handicapping the Breeders' Cup. And when you get either one of these packages, you save $38 on the value. Go to shop.drf.com or use that QR code on screen. Well, Mike, let's throw up the top 10 contenders. Well, the first page of the top 10 contenders for this Breeders' Cup Sprint as things stand right now. And full disclosure, we did record a version of this video a couple days ago that we're going to redo now because we got some news earlier this week that there could be a surprise entrant in this Breeders' Cup Sprint. We'll see how it plays out. But Copian, who had been considered the top contender for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint for really the past several months, Richard Mandella said recently that he's going to cross-enter her in both races. Take a look, see which one looks like it could be the best spot because Spendthrift and Mandella do have another horse for the Filly and Mare Sprint. We'll talk about that in that video. But Mike, I had to quickly adjust and make a new morning line for this race. I had about 5 minutes to consider what price Copian would be. I don't know if she actually would go favorite in this race, but I would love to see her get a chance against the boys.
I understand the inclination for her connections to at least want to look at this race. It's not like the male sprint division, has been super strong all year so far in 2025. And then you have, you add in that Bookham Dano, who seems like he's leading that division, is not coming for the Breeders' Cup. So it certainly does open this race up a little bit.
Yeah, if Copian did run in this race, and I think this will be the second preference for her, but if she did run in this race, the 6 furlong distance would be the major question. Running fast enough, probably not a question, because she has earned some of the fastest speed figures of any horse in the country in any division this year. And as we go through some of the contenders in this Breeders' Cup Sprint, Mike, it's not a year where the sprint division horses are running particularly fast numbers, especially outside of Bookham Dano. And, the horse ranked second on this list, Ben Tornado. If Copian does not run in the race, I would imagine he's going to be a substantial favorite because he was visually impressive when he returned from a long layoff to make his belated 4-year-old debut at Churchill Downs last time, won that race impressively. And of course, he is the runner-up from last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint, so he's got the form lines in his last couple of races to make him formidable in here. We just haven't seen a whole lot of him in the past year.
Yeah, I guess that could be a little bit of a concern, just the fact that he's only started once as a 4-year-old. So I guess that could make you wonder. He certainly looked really good off the layoff. I don't necessarily feel like he beat a super strong field at Churchill Downs. I guess the flip side of that, David, is he was off a long layoff. It was a really fast pace that he had to deal with, and he was able to do that. I thought he was pretty convincing off the layoff. His form from last year, he was kind of you mentioned he was second in this race last year. He ran really, really well, but that was kind of a surprise performance from this horse. He was a really big price that day, but that was sort of his coming out party. And now we'll see if he can continue developing here as a very lightly raced horse with only one start this year.
Yeah, and the horse that just beat Ben Tornado in last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint, Straight No Chaser, he is also supposed to be back in this field. And he's another one coming in, but some questions to answer. He was off for much of the year, did get in a prep race in September. We'll take a look at the race where Imagination beat him in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. And Mike, I think that Imagination ran well to get the job done here. He was turning back for the first time in a long time, a horse for Bob Baffert that had some things to prove cutting back to the 6 furlongs. As for Straight No Chaser, this was the first time we had seen him since he was off for a long time after going over to the Middle East. And this was a race that Straight No Chaser probably needed, but there is an outstanding question about whether he can get back to that form that we saw from him in the 2024 sprint.
I think it is a fair question that you want to ask yourself, especially if he is one of the favorites at the Breeders' Cup. We'll see how it all plays out, David. I mean, as opposed to Ben Tornado, which, that layoff, him coming back after so much time away, I'm not sure what to make of that. Obviously, there seems like maybe something went wrong with this horse. Straight No Chaser is a little bit different last time because they obviously had a plan earlier this year to go overseas and shoot for some really big purses. And it kind of worked out for them. He got time after that. He did get noticeably tired in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship last time. So, we'll just see, how much that race moved him forward because it did seem like he needed it.
And the horse that's ranked fifth on this list, Mulligan, I mean, he was playing second fiddle to the aforementioned Bookham Dano for a lot of the season. And I guess with Bookham Dano absent from this race, you would have thought that Mulligan could be a big player in this year's Breeders' Cup Sprint once again. He was third in the race last year, as we will probably have the top three finishers from the 2024 Sprint back in this race. I guess the big question with Mulligan, Mike, is what happened last time in the Forgo?
Yeah, maybe, just listen, banging heads with Bookham Dano in his first three starts this year. Maybe that it all finally caught up with him last time in the Forgo, because it obviously that was a step in the wrong direction. But if you can get past that, and getting a decent price on this horse would help you in that endeavor. Every one of his prior races is good, David. I mean, he wasn't quite as good as Bookham Dano earlier this year. But man, did he run some bang up races against that horse. He just wasn't quite good enough. I can easily see this horse rebounding at the Breeders' Cup.
Why don't we flip on over to the second page of Contenders, some horses that could be bigger prices in this year's Breeders' Cup Sprint. And I think the most high-profile name on this list of horses ranked 6 through 10 is Lovesick Blues, who did achieve a landmark victory over this track and distance in the Grade 1 Bing Crosby back at the end of July. We'll take a look at the replay of that race, Mike. And this is a horse that you kind of wonder where it came from. He was 18-1 on this occasion. He was coming in off a series of turf races, though he had run well on dirt in the past. They're taking sort of an unconventional path with him, because initially Labrado Barocchio, his trainer, had said that he was going to train him up into the sprint from this win in July, but he was surprisingly entered in the California Flag this upcoming week, and we are recording this prior to the weekend of October 11th, and he's supposed to get in a prep against the Calbreds on the turf. Sort of an unconventional path to the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
It certainly is. Yes, listen, he won that race that we just watched, switching from turf to dirt down the hill right to the 6 furlongs at Del Mar. So they're going to see if they can sort of reproduce that kind of a performance, which, as you've already pointed out, it kind of came out of nowhere. It's clearly the best race he's ever run, but it came over course and distance. It earned a figure that's going to make him a contender if he can run it back at the Breeders' Cup. And this is probably a Breeders' Cup Sprint that's going to have some pace for him to come after.
Mike, is there anybody else on this list of bigger prices in the sprint that you might have your eye on, especially if some pace develops, a horse that you think might be able to outrun its odds?
Listen, if we'll see if Banishing, if they're going to push on with Banishing here and cut him back in the sprint, he's definitely a horse that I would at least take a second look at, because he just keeps showing up, David, and running one good race after another. I do think shorter distances are better for this horse anyway. You can pick through his form and find plenty of sprint races that would give him a real chance in here. Banishing is the only one of those bottom 5 that I would probably take a second look at.
Well, everybody, that's an early look at the contenders for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. At this stage, we're still about 3 weeks away from the race, but drop a comment below. Let us know who you're looking forward to seeing in the Breeders' Cup Sprint this year. And make sure to subscribe to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the updates around the Breeders' Cup in the coming weeks.